All right, so here's a video to show you some questions where you could use your calculator on your SAT and where the 89 might be helpful. So in question number 9, you're given an equation, and ultimately you're just asked to solve for t, right, to get t by itself. What you could do here is press F2 and solve, and you type in what you see, 1052 plus 1.08. Why not put in t? And that's equal to A. And if you want A, it's right there. And if you want the calculator to solve for t, what do you do to make it solve for t? So you type in the equation, go comma t at the end, because what are you telling the calculator again to solve for t? What does t equal by itself? Now, part of the challenge here is this answer is the decimal answer, right, of what they're looking for? So if you look to see what t equals, they have this number times a minus something. They don't match what you see here, right, in the solutions to be able to do it. That is the answer, but it's with decimals, right, in terms of how it was resolved. Now, let's go back just to the actual packet. In this example, the calculator is not as helpful because it simplifies all this, right? It divides it out. Instead, how would you get t by itself? You would simply subtract 1052, and then you would divide everything by 1.08. And that would save you no time on the calculator. Number 10, at which of the following air temperatures will the speed of a sound wave be closest to 1,000 feet per second? So, 1,000 feet per second, if I read carefully, that's what A represents. A is the speed of a sound wave, A. So what number am I going to plug in for A? 1,000. And I'm going to use that equation. Here's a good example where using your calculator would actually be helpful. F2 solve. You're going to type in 1,000 equals 1,052 plus 1.08. T is fine. And then go comma T, telling the calculator to solve for T. And then what answer do you get with the calculator? Can you see negative 48.1 and so on? Which one of the solutions is closest to it? And can you see why the answer is B, negative 48? That solve feature on the calculator, you have to be comfortable with. How quick can you get there? F2, 1, type it in, comma, whatever letter you're solving for, and the calculator will solve the equation for you. Number 11. Which of the following numbers is not a solution? So you're given an inequality. First, I solve for x. So to solve for x, I combine like terms. Subtract 3x. That's 4 take away 3, which is 1x. Add 3. And this is what you get. Now, understand this means x is less than or equal to what number? Negative 2. You can flip it around, right? Take the whole thing and mirror it over. Which one of these answers is not less than or equal to negative 2? And that's why the answer is A, because it's bigger than negative 2. Number 12. The number of seeds in each apple, right, of 12 apples. This one was challenging. Did you find that? Like, for instance, here. On the bottom is the number of seeds, and the vertical axis is the number of apples. So, in other words, how many seeds are there all together here? 2 apples, 3 seeds per apple. You actually have to go 2 times 3 for the number of seeds. 4, there's nothing. Here, you're going to go 5 times 4. Here, you're going to go 6 times 1. Here, you're going to go 7 times 2. And then here you're going to go 9 times 3. Use your calculator, and it adds up to 73. How do you find the average number of seeds per apple? Well, how many apples were there in total? So you have to add it up again. So it's 2 plus 4 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3 again. Add them all up and you get 12. So 73 divided by 12. The closest one, right? Approximate, right? Which is the closest to it? And the answer is 6. And you can see at the bottom how I calculated how many apples there were, knowing how to read the graph.
I just looked at the number in the middle.
You just picked the number in the middle?
Yeah, because it's in median.
All right. Can you see how to do it properly, though? Cool. Number 13. Here you have, again, a chart giving you data, and it says that's a group of 10th graders that are asked which math course they are currently enrolled in. The survey data was broken down as shown above. Which of the following categories accounts for approximately 19% of all who surveyed? Well, first I need to know how many in total were surveyed. 310. There's no way around it. I have to go one at a time until I find the one that actually works. Males taking geometry. So males taking geometry was 59. When I divide them to find the percent, that one was closest to 19. Females taking geometry did not do that. Females taking algebra 2, again, was too large of a percent. But you're going to have to go one at a time until you find the one that matched. Number 14. Again, can you read a chart? Here are different lengths of fishes. You notice they're in order from small to large. It says, of the mean, median, and range. Do you know what those words mean? I'm going to help you. What does the mean mean? That's the average, when you add them all up and divide by how many you have. Median sounds like it, but it's different. You know what the median is? It's the middle number. So when you order them, whatever number's in the middle is the median.
That's why it won't make sense.
Right, but the last question talked about average. Median is not average. Median, you order them, and whatever the middle number is when you order them is median, the middle. Average, you have to add them all up and then divide. Now, the last one is the range. The range is when you take the smallest number and you subtract it from the largest number. That's the range. So it says, which will change the most if the 24-inch measurement is removed? So if I take away the 24, can you see the range is the one that will be changed the most? The median will still be pretty close to 12, and the average will change, but not as much as the range. Because the range went from 24 to 8, now it's down to 16 to 8. It changes the most. So that's why the answer was C. Again, a graph. The cost of renting a boat. The vertical is the cost. The horizontal is the time you take out the boat. It says, what does the C-intercept represent in the graph? Right here. The C-intercept. So the C-intercept is the initial value, or the starting value. So what's the initial cost of the boat before you take it out over time? That's what the answer was. 16. Which of the following represents the relationship between H and C? In other words, what's the equation of that line? Hey, did we do that? What do we need to know? What's the y-intercept? 5. What's the rise over run here? Be careful. Look at the scale. It goes up how many? 4, but to the right how many? 1. Up 4 over 1. Do you see that scale? Or is it up 3, We're starting at 5. Up 3 and to the right 1, looking off the scale. So that's the slope. So what's the equation of the line, right? Like mx plus b, 3x plus 5. Number 17. It says, complete the graph of the function. is shown. It says where what value of x is the value of f at x at a minimum. Well, what does the word minimum mean? It's the lowest point. Do you see how I circled that? What is the x value at the lowest point? Can you see how simple that was? So you found the lowest point. What's the x value there? And that was your answer. Number 18. If xy plane, in the xy plane, if 0, 0 is a solution to the system of the inequalities above, which of the following relationships between A and B must be true? Linear inequalities. So, what I did was very simple. I actually put it on my graph one way or the other, and that what relationship must happen if it's true or not. So one has a negative slope, the other has a positive slope. And so if A is bigger than B, and you draw the lines and shade it correctly, does it cover 0, 0? So the only one that covers 0, 0 is A, when A is bigger than B. So it's above it in terms of doing the inequality. Number 19. A fruit truck sells $6.50 each and drinks for $2. The food truck's revenue from selling that, a total of 209 salads and drinks in one day, was $836.50. Here are your two equations. So money, $6.50 per salad, $2 per drink, and that's how much money they got. Or salads plus drinks equal 209. You can solve this on your calculator. So what I want you to do to solve it on your calculator is you can actually press the blue button, second function, and home. So press the blue button and home, and now I want you to look up and press F3. And if you look at the options there, it gives you an option to solve a system. That's number 4. So press number 4, and then I want you to move the cursor. So move the cursor to the beginning of the parentheses, and you're going to type in 6.5x plus 2y equals 836.50 or 0.5. Move the cursor after the word and. Notice there's a space between the number and the word and then there's a space after the word and. You're going to go x plus y is equal to 209. Then you're going to press enter. It's telling you to solve for x and y. What is the answer to this system then? X is how many? 93 salads and how many drinks? 116. Which one says 93 salads, which is what I'm looking for, right? And the other was 116. You could, in fact, because you're only solving for salads, you could actually just make it solve for x, and it would just tell you. In fact, it gave you both still. But x equals 93 is what you're looking for. All right, turn the page. Number 20. This was a challenging one. Alma bought a laptop computer that gave a 20% discount off its original price. The total amount she paid to the cashier was P dollars, including an 8% sales tax on the discounted price. Which of the following represents the original price of the computer in terms of P? So P is the price paid. So whatever X is, that's the original price. Now 20% discount, I don't want the discount. You know what I want instead? Is what remains. So what percent remains if you take off 20%? Can you see where 0.80 comes from? It's the other side, right? Not the part you take away, but the part that remains. So what percent remains? So 80% remains. And then, do you know that 8% is 0.08? But when you're calculating sales tax that you're adding back in, you go 1.08, and then you don't have to add it back at the end. That 1.08 means it's already added back in, so you don't have an extra step. So that gives you the sales tax and the discount. To get X by itself, you divide by both those things. See how I divided to get X by itself? So the one that matched was D. I think that was probably challenging. Did anyone get that one right? By guessing? By knowing? That's awesome. 21. Dreams recalled during 1 week. So they did this thing about people dreaming. And the question is, if a person is chosen at random from those who recalled at least one dream. So the ones that recalled at least one dream are right here, right? At least one dream. So at least one dream would be those two. So it's 39 plus what number? 39 plus 125, which is 164. Or you could take 200, take away 36, and get the same answer. If a person is chosen at random from those that recall, what is the probability that the person belonged to group Y? So how many belong to group Y that had at least recalled one dream? So group Y is 11 plus 68, which is 79. So the probability is 79 out of 164. That's C. "22. You have a huge chart with a lot of data. It says, which of the following best approximates the average rate of change? What does that word mean, average rate of change? That word means slope, which is the change in Y over the change in X. For agriculture, natural resources in Kansas. Agriculture, natural resources, Kansas, from 2008 to what number? To 2010. How do you find slope? The change in Y, that would be subtracting, right? The two numbers. And the change in X. So if I subtract the two, recognize the numbers are in what? Thousands of dollars. So when you subtract, that's thousands. In fact, that's what millions is, right? Subtract the two, make sure it's in thousands, and then you divide by subtracting the years. So how many years have gone on from 2008 to 2010? That's just what number? 2. So you take that number divided by 2, and there you go. So right here is the change in Y. And then you multiply it times 1,000. Because it's in thousands. 23. Of the following, which program's ratio of its 2007 budget to its 2010 budget is closest to the human resources program ratio of its 2007 to 2010? So I got to start with human resources. What's its ratio? So at 210, 2007 to 210. 2007 to 210. You know what I did with those two numbers? I divided them. And what number do you get when you divide? 0.68 with your calculator. And then I just went one at a time until I found the one that was closest to 0.68. That's why the answer was B. And you're just dividing. until you find the answer that's closest. Number 24. It talks about the equation of a circle. Right there is an equation of a circle. X minus h squared, y minus k squared, r squared. So it says, which of the following is an equation of a circle? The center is at 0, 4. So already I know B and D are wrong because the sign is wrong. Whenever it's inside the parentheses, the sign changes. So it should say negative 4. And then there's 2 that are left. 5 over 3 is the radius, but if you square 5 over 3, you get 25 over 9. That's why A is right and C is wrong. Number 25. We have an equation, and it says after how many seconds will the ball hit the ground? That's when it's equal to 0 when it hits the ground. Take out your calculator. Press algebra and 1 and type it in. Negative 4.9 t squared. Remember, to square is the button above the divide sign, that arrow. Plus 25t. Go comma t to solve it. Oh, what did I go? Equal to 0. All right. So, type in the equation equal to 0. And the answer is either 0 at the beginning, or what's the other answer when it hits the ground is 5.1. So which one is the closest approximation to 5.1? So approximately how many seconds? And the answer is D, using your calculator. You don't want to solve that without a calculator. So you remember how to type it in again? How to get to algebra, solve, you type in the equation, comma t, and it does the work for you. (26) Katerina's a botanist. That she likes plants. She noticed that there are 2 types of trees. Type A produces 20% more pears than type B. Based on Katerina's observation, if type A produced 144, how many pears did type B produce? So the idea is, one is how many percent more? 20% more is the same as 1.20. That's 120%, right? Move the decimal back 2. So if you take the one tree times 1.2, that's 20% more. So at 20% more, the answer was 144. Divide by 1.2, and then how many pears did the other tree produce? And it's 120. You could also take each one of these answers, right, and see which one, right, fits in terms of 20% more. 27. A square field measures 10 meters by 10 meters. 10 students each mark off a randomly selected region of the field. Each region is square and has side lengths of 1 meter, and no 2 regions overlap. The students count the earthworms contained in the soil to a depth of 5 centimeters beneath the ground surface. The results are shown below. So they see how many worms they got in their area. It says, which of the following is a reasonable approximation of the number of earthworms to a depth of 5 centimeters beneath the ground surface in the entire field? So what they looked at was 1 meter by 1 meter. That's 1 meter square. That's the area. And then if you look at all the answers, that's approximately how many? 150. That's like a middle number. Look at all the numbers here, right? What's 10 by 10? How big of an area is that? 100. So what should I do to the 150? Multiply it by what number? 100. And that's what gives you the number of worms. Being able to read the chart. Turn the page. Number 28. If you graphed it, which quadrant is completely empty with no shaded part? Some have a little bit of shade, some have a lot of shade. Which one has no shade? And it's quadrant number 4. For one you shade above, and the other one you shade above, which one is completely empty when you graph it? And it's quadrant number 4. For a polynomial, the value of p at 3 is negative 2. Which of the following must be true about p at x? So p at 3, we're going to deal with x minus 3. So already these are all wrong in terms of the x value you're given, right? You're given 3. Algebraically, we're going to go x subtract 3. And this is the remainder theorem, that if you plug in 3, the remainder is negative 2. But all the other options don't start correctly. Number 30. Hey, this is like what we did on our quiz today. Which of the following is equivalent to this one? So here's a parabola. For which of the following can be, and it says, equivalent in the form of the graph shown above, from which of the coordinates vertex A can be identified as constant. So in other words, which one is in vertex form? That's correct. So which of A, B, C, or D is in vertex form? And the answer is D. None of the rest are in the right form, are they? Turn the page. Did I do that? I did that one already. Oh, is that it? Is that the last one? Oh, the ones with the numbers? Let's look at that one. I must have not printed it out. The ones with the numbers? Right here, right? Let me print that out. 13 and 14. All right, look at 13 and 14. It's always a little more challenging when you don't have answer options, right, to cross out bad answers. See, my printer feels like printing. All right, let's look at number 31. It says Wyatt can husk at least 12 dozen ears and at most 18 in 1 hour. So in 1 hour, he can do at least 12, but no more than 18. What is a possible amount of time in hours that it could take Wyatt to husk 17 dozen ears of corn? So you have two options. The low end, how many hours would it take? 6. If he was really fast, how many hours would it take? 4, because 18 times 4 is 72, and 12 times 6 is 72. So you have to pick any time from 4 to 6 hours. So if you picked 4, remember that one? I said 4, 5, 6, 4.5, 5.8, all those are good answers. 32. The posted weight limit for a wooden bridge is 6,000 pounds. A delivery truck that is carrying X identical boxes, each weighing 14 pounds, will pass over the bridge. If the combined weight of the empty delivery truck and its driver is 4,500 pounds, what's the maximum possible value for X? So first of all, 6,000 is the max. Take away the driver and the truck. how much weight is left? 1,500. And then take the 14x, right, for what's left. So that has to be less than 1,500 to be able to get over the bridge. So divide by 14, and approximately what number do you get per box when you divide by 14 of what remains? And you have to round down so it's not too much over the bridge. So how many approximately per package? And the answer was 107 when you round it. Number 33, the number of portable media players sold worldwide. There's a graph. According to the line graph above, the number of media players sold in 2008 is what fraction of the number in 2011? So obviously, what do you have to do? 2008, how many were sold? 100. 2011, and it's 100 million, but you're dividing, so it'll divide out. 2011, 160 million. So you don't need the million to divide, and then reduce it down. So that's where you get the fraction. One times the other. And then divide. A local television station sells time slots for programs in 30-minute intervals. If the station operates 24 hours a day, every day a week, what is the total number of 30-minute time slots the stations can sell for Tuesday and Wednesday? So how many hours in a day, obviously, times 2 is how many commercials could they do per day? 48. For 2 days of the week, 2 times 48 is how many commercials in total? 96. Turn the page. This is a formula that's on the cover, right, of your packet. A cylinder. What's the formula for volume of a cylinder? It's on the cover of your packet. Pi r squared h, right? So use it. It says the volume is 72 pi. And it says, what is the diameter base of the cylinder? Let's just for fun use your calculator again. So if I wanted to solve this, I would go algebra, or solve. Let me get back to the home screen. So I would go solve. There it is. All right, I would go solve. And I would type in that equation. Pi, do you know where pi is? It's right above the arrow, right? So blue button and the arrow. So pi times r squared. I'm just going to call that x to make it easier to type in. So x squared times 8 is equal to 72 pi. And I want to solve for x. So the two options when you solve for x are -3 or +3. Which one is the obvious answer for the radius of that cylinder? Not negative, it's going to be. See how you can use your calculator to solve it? And then the diameter is just double that, right? So the diameter is 6. 36. For what value of x is that function undefined? It's undefined when the bottom is equal to what? 0. Again, I'm going to use my calculator. F2, solve, and I'm going to type it in. Parentheses, x subtract 5 squared, use parentheses, plus 4. Oops. Now for here, you're going to have to go times, and then the parentheses. X subtract 5 plus 4 equal to 0, comma x. So take the bottom and make it equal to 0 and solve for x. And when you solve it, x equals 3. So when x is 3, that makes the bottom 0, which makes it undefined. All right, last question here. They're connected. Did this remind you of a work we did at Christmas time?
Yes.
At Christmas time, we did this formula. Does that formula look familiar? Now, this is simplified, right? But P is what number? 100. But X is that whole part in the middle. Do you see that? That whole part? Now, in our example, it's compounded what? Annually. So what does n equal for annually? 1. So it's just 1 plus what? R. And what is the rate? 2%. So what's 1 plus 0.02? What is that number? What does x equal? 1.02. From the work we did at Christmas. Now the last question. Use that 1.02. And it says in 10 years. So plug in 10 for T. Tyshawn, he gets a better interest rate. 2.5. So it's 1.025. And then you subtract the two values, and that's where you get 6.11. So recognize that the work we did on exponentials for the very last question.